Coming up on Mountain News this morning, Fleming Neon is looking towards a new higher ground community after a difficult road to recovery. And soon, Eastern Kentucky will have access to faster and more affordable internet.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. We are coming up on 6 a.m. on November 14th. Now let's check in with Chief Forecaster Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. And once again, Brandon, we're just going to continue to see that dry stretch of weather out there for the next couple of days. And we're once again still needing that rain.
I know, it's rinse and repeat without the rinse part. We would like the rinse part. Please bring us the rinse part. But yeah, it's going to be another dry pattern here setting up over the next couple of days. But there is some rain, kind of a bookend end of the week rain like we had last week. But again, we were talking about earlier, I know one of the officials in one of the forestry packages that we had earlier, we're talking about we need about 2 inches of rain. We're not going to get that, but we will get some needed rain on this Friday with a new cold front. We take you downtown Hazard this morning, Triangle Park. Not too bad. Hazard sensors offline this morning. You see a little bit of breeze there blowing some of those flags around. So chilly start to the day in many areas as we head out the door. It is 45. That is the warmest spot in the region in Jackson. Then back to 30 there in Jonesville. They're kind of back and forth. So 29, Irvin and Manchester now 28 in Ashland. So back and forth temperatures. A lot of folks in the 30s this morning. So 60 this afternoon. Dry cold front came through last night. No rain with it, but a few clouds this morning and then a mix of sun and clouds through the day. Average high this time of the year, 58, so 60, not too bad above that, so it's still above average, but it's still going to feel pretty cool, especially if we have a few clouds with that sunshine. More on the forecast coming up here in just a little bit. Olivia?
Brandon, thank you. 2 accidents in Garrett County ended in the same tragic result. The sheriff says 2 hunters accidentally shot themselves over the weekend. 77-year-old Russell Stillwell of Indiana died Saturday morning, and 26-year-old Benjamin Brogle Jr. of Garrett County died Sunday. Lexi Martin talked with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife about hunting safety.
We know for sure both of these incidents that happened this past weekend could have been prevented as far as just from a safety standpoint.
Over the weekend, the Garrett County Sheriff's Office says 77-year-old Russell Stillwell and 26-year-old Benjamin Brogle Jr. accidentally shot and killed themselves hunting while walking with their firearms. Officer Brace with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife says both of these accidents could have been prevented had their gun safety been on.
So not only, is it not uncommon, but for it happening in the same county, say 5 miles apart, it's definitely shocking and, stuff that's not normal.
These aren't the first hunting deaths this season either.
The third hunting incident within less than 3 weeks, so that has been fatal, so that's why we're preaching safety, safety, safety.
Officer Brace says if you're moving at all, even 15 yards away, you should unload your gun. This helps prevent accidental and negligent discharges from the weapons.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Don't point the gun at something you're not willing to destroy or shoot. And know it is beyond your target, and keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot that object.
Hunter education courses are free in Kentucky. With a license, you can hunt legally and safely. If you are licensed, Officer Brace says don't get complacent, for these accidents can happen to anyone.
Go out there to have fun, we get that, but just make sure you're being safe about it.
Lexi Martin, WKYT.
The city of Fleming Neon will soon have a higher ground community for flood survivors. City officials purchased 20 acres for the project that will be off of Fairview Lane above town. They say the property already had homes on it, making it easier for construction. Executive Director of Pine Mountain Partnership, Jeffrey Justice, says this is a big step in flood recovery, as it has been hard to find land, especially in the city.
They acquired some property. They're going to do everything they can to master plan that out. And it's still early. The announcement has been made. They still have to do a lot of the heavy work, but hopefully in a year, year and a half, we'll see some construction at that site.
Justice says flood recovery has not been easy in Letcher County, but he is happy to see things move along. Some Kentucky lawmakers gathered in Lexington to discuss what's ahead in this year's legislative session, which starts on January 2nd. But with Election Day just barely behind us, some are still dissecting the lessons learned about Kentucky politics Tuesday night. Jessica Umbro talked with National Republican on-air contributor Scott Jennings about the impact of last week's election results in this upcoming legislative session.
Being an incumbent right now is a really good indicator of whether you're going to win re-election.
Monday's conference, hosted by the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, focused on a wide range of topics, from healthcare to infrastructure to the workforce. As Kentucky's legislature enters a session with a supermajority of Republicans in both the House and the Senate chambers.
We feel very strongly that the position Kentucky is in today, the good position Kentucky is in today, is due primarily to the good work of the Republican supermajorities in the House and Senate during the last 5 years.
National Republican Party on-air contributor Scott Jennings says the Republican supermajority has diminished the governor's role, such as the legislature's ability to override a governor veto.
Since they lost the majority, they've totally fallen off the map in Frankfort. Beshear is it, and in some ways, Governor of Kentucky has been relegated to sort of a ceremonial head of state.
While much of the day was dedicated to looking ahead at this next legislative session, there was still a lot of conversation about lessons learned from last week's elections.
It looks like Democrats were highly motivated. I think something like 80% of Biden voters turned out, but only about half of Trump voters. And so I think we did learn about Democratic motivations, and we also learned a little bit about the limits of Trump.
But with the Republicans in firm control of the Kentucky legislature, Senate Majority Leader Thayer says they will be the ones leading the Commonwealth in Frankfort.
We're going to lead with a conservative bent. That's the mandate we have, and we feel very strongly about our position, and we're going to lead from a position of strength.
In Lexington, Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
Our sister station, WKYT, reached out to Governor Beshear's team about the governor's plans for the upcoming legislative session. Officials told them that he has 3 priority areas for the upcoming budget, specifically public safety and law enforcement, education, and infrastructure. More people in our region will soon have access to faster and more affordable internet. Yesterday, state and local leaders announced grant money that will fund 100 miles of fiber cable. It will install broadband for 33,000 homes in 16 southern and eastern Kentucky counties. Some lawmakers say this will benefit education most.
I think a lot of our kids are just now learning about computers. They're learning about IT. They're learning about communications. A lot of it come out of the COVID, where they had to do some home schooling.
The counties were chosen based on unserved or underserved areas and also where internet is seen as too expensive.
6:07 here on this Tuesday morning. We're looking at I-75 down at Corbin there, and not a whole lot of traffic going on this morning there. A few cars passing by on the interstate, still a little bit on the dark side. 32 out there as we start our day, and it's 32 in Somerset, Williamsburg, Jacksboro, 30, London, and it's not London, excuse me, Middlesboro and Jonesville, 34 there in Harlan. But the further north you go, the colder it is. Manchester 29, Irvine 28, Grundy's at 30, Ashland's at 28. The warmest spot in the entire region is Jackson at 45. As we look ahead, the mild weather continues for the next couple of days, but a late week cold front brings us some rain chances. We will cool down this weekend, and we will also clear out as we see high pressure build back in. Olivia?
Thank you, Brandon, and thanks for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. When we return, we have more on the fighting in Gaza as those trying to escape get caught in the crossfire.